The space race was one of the most exciting and intense competitions of the 20th century, fueled by the Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. It wasn't just about reaching the stars, it was about proving which nation had superior technology, political ideology, and global influence. The space race began in earnest in 1957 when the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite, into orbit. This event shocked the world, especially the United States, which realized that the Soviets had developed rocket technology powerful enough to launch satellites and potentially nuclear weapons into space. The launch of Sputnik sparked fear and anxiety, but it also ignited a sense of determination. America responded by accelerating its own space program, leading to the creation of NASA in 1958. In the early years, the Soviets continued to lead the way. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first human to travel into space, orbiting Earth aboard Vostok 1. Gagarin's flight was a major victory for the Soviet Union and cemented their dominance in space exploration. The United States, feeling the pressure, knew it needed to make a bold move to catch up. That bold move came in 1961 when President John F. Kennedy made a historic declaration. He announced that the US would send a man to the moon and return him safely to Earth by the end of the decade. It was an ambitious goal, but one that captured the imagination of the American public and re-energized the US space program. This announcement set the stage for what would become the greatest technological achievement possibly in human history, certainly in the 20th century. NASA's Apollo program was launched with the goal of landing on the moon. However, before reaching that milestone, there were many challenges and setbacks. One of the darkest moments came in 1967 when Apollo 1 caught fire during a pre-flight test, killing all 3 astronauts on board. Despite this tragedy, the program pressed on, and significant progress was made with missions like Apollo 7 and Apollo 8, which saw humans orbit the moon for the first time. Finally, on July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11 made history. American astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins were part of the mission that successfully landed the first humans on the moon. As Armstrong took his first steps on the lunar surface, he famously said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." It was a defining moment not just for the United States, but for humanity as a whole. The Soviet Union, meanwhile, had struggled to replicate the success of the US lunar program. Although they continued to make important contributions to space exploration, such as developing space stations like Mir, they never achieved a manned moon landing. The space race effectively ended in 1975 when the US and the Soviet Union carried out the first international space mission, the Apollo-Soyuz test project, where spacecraft from both nations docked in space and the astronauts shook hands. This moment symbolized the beginning of cooperation in space, signaling that the intense rivalry was over. While the space race was a product of Cold War competition, it ultimately pushed humanity to achieve the impossible, showing that space exploration transcended national borders and political ideologies.